أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. I have been thinking about how I was going to present this to the Jamaat, my feelings and what Ahmadiyya have done for me. I know for one thing that it has changed my entire life. When I think back on my life as a younger man, that I could always say that God was always in my mind, even though I have done things that it was forbidden by Him, but Him would always remain with me. When I first came in contact with Islam, actually it was in 1951 when I was in the military. The brother who was in the military with me, he was a Muslim, and he was very radical Muslim. And this is the first time I ever heard of anything about Islam. His name was Sheikh Muhammad. He had a store on 25th and Caesar B. Moore, which used to be Columbia Avenue. And one day, as I was reading my Bible at night, things that was troubling to me was trying to figure out how in the world am I supposed to worship Jesus before the Almighty God. Because when the 10th commandment says, God says, I am a jealous God, and thou shalt have no other gods before me. I said, something is wrong with this picture. So one day I decided to go to his store and talk with him. And when I did talk with him, he started relating to me about how Islam was a universal religion. At one point that stuck with me, because I was always saying to myself, how could the church that I belong to, and they always would say, if you don't accept this church, you'll go to hell. And this church is not spread throughout the whole entire world. So I said that I feel that God has sent a religion for all of mankind. And Islam was explained to me by him that it was a universal religion, which really helped me to understand the true essence of my Almighty Allah. As he talked, I see different burdens were being lifted from me on my thoughts about religion and the understanding of Christianity. And I began to have a great feeling that this is for me. This is a religion I can quote with, that I can understand, that I can believe in. And when he finished, I told him, I said, how can I become a part of this? And he said, oh, brother, well, you do a little studying first, and then we will, give you Shahada. I said, well, what is Shahada? Shahada is to initiate you into the fold of Islam. I stayed with him for a while. When I was accepted, that was in 1960. And in the middle of 1960, one day he was reading the Quran. And the Quran was by Muhammad Ali. And in that Quran, he had the words of Ahmadiyya. And I asked him, I said, what is this Ahmadiyya? He said, these peoples are not Muslims. You know, they don't practice Islam. I said, well, what are you reading a book for then? They are not Muslims. He said, well, they write good books. You know, and so I said, where are they? He said, they have a store on 52nd and Girard Avenue. So I said, okay, I'm going to go up there and check them out. He said, no. He said, don't go up there. You go up there, don't come back here. I said, okay, all right. So when he said that to me, you know, I'm the kind of person, I like to get things understood for myself. Because I feel that the things that I learned, the things that God has, knowledge that God has given me, that I must utilize it for myself, I must think for myself. I've always been like that, even when I was a kid. And so I said, I got to check it out for myself to be sure. So I went there. And by the way, that's where I first met Brother Munir. He was at this place. Because they sold books, and he was a bookworm, and he was always going there buying books. And the first thing I saw when I walked into this bookstore was the very picture you see hanging over here on my right side. And when I stepped into the bookstore and I asked the brother, I said, who is him? Who is this guy here? He said, that's the Promised Messiah. I said, Promised Messiah? What Promised Messiah? He said, he's the second advent of Christ. And when he said that, that struck me again, because I didn't know Muslims believed in the second coming of Christ. I thought once I become a Muslim that the Christ thing was all gone. But then that belief that I had of his second appearance, you know, it came back to me. And I said, well, what about him? Explain him to me. And he started quoting different verses from the Bible, which I have read many times. And as he quoted them to me, I began to understand them fully. You know, and he said that this man fulfilled all of these prophecies that was made about the second coming of Christ. And he said that this man is the man who came to bring the new message to all mankind. Again, this felt good to me when he says all of mankind. Universal religion of God that touches the heart of every man, every person in the world. And we talked for about maybe 2 hours. And I said, well, how could I reach him? How could I, you know, get into this? And he said the same thing that Sheikh said, brother, you know, just study a little bit. You know, I said, well, I shouldn't study because I already understand what you're saying to me. I would accept it right now, at this moment. But we started to talking and I started reading. And in this conversation, Brother Munir was there. And I talked with him for quite a while. And he was explaining to me more about what Ahmadiyya was. I hung around the bookstore for a couple of months until the bookstore closed. And when the bookstore closed, that's when Brother Munir took all of us who was coming there at that bookstore at that particular time to the Ahmadiyya movement in 19th and South. And we all signed to buy it there under the missionary Yasin. And it was about 19 or 20 of us, because we all was going to Haji Talib's place because he had classes there. And we was all going there learning different things, reading different books and learning Arabic and other things. But when I became an Ahmadi, it seemed as though that everything was beginning to change in my life. The things that I have